Let's get straight to the point. You've changed, and no one around you has noticed. Or worse, they noticed and chose to ignore it. You're trapped in a version of yourself that no longer exists, surrounded by people who still expect you to be who you were years ago. And the most fucked up part is that you keep trying to fit into that broken mold, forcing conversations that no longer make sense, laughing at jokes that don't make you laugh anymore, pretending to care about things that stopped mattering to you a long time ago. Do you know the price of growth? Loneliness. Not the romantic loneliness sold in movies, that bullshit where the protagonist suffers beautifully while finding himself. No. This is raw loneliness, the kind that hits you at 3 in the morning when you realize there's no one left to talk to about what truly moves you. It's realizing you grew faster than your environment, and now you're standing in a place no one can reach, not even those swore they'd always be by your side. And here's what no one tells you. When you wake up, when you truly open your eyes to a different way of seeing life, there's no going back. You can't unlearn what you've seen. You can't pretend you still believe the same things. You can't become ignorant again once you've touched the truth. And that condemns you to live in 2 worlds at the same time. The world everyone sees, and the world only you perceive. And the distance between them is so vast that sometimes you feel like you're going to split in 2. Think about this. How many times have you been at a family gathering or with lifelong friends and felt like you were acting? How many times have you had to edit every word, censor every thought, just to avoid making others uncomfortable? How many times have you wanted to scream, "I'm not that person anymore," but swallowed the words because you knew they wouldn't understand? That's not coexistence, that's exile. You're exiled from your own life, pretending to belong to a place you left a long time ago. Spiritual growth, awakening, call it whatever you want, is not that shiny journey painted in self-help books. It's dirty, it's painful, it's losing everything you thought defined you. It's like a crab shedding its shell. You're left vulnerable, exposed, without protection, while the new shell grows. And during that time, anything can destroy you. That's why most people never do it. They'd rather stay in the old shell, even if it's too small, even if it's suffocating them, because at least it's familiar. But you already started. You already broke the shell. And now you're here, reading this, looking for confirmation that you're not crazy, that what you're feeling is real. Let me tell you something. You're not crazy. You're alone. And that loneliness is proof that you're going in the right direction. Because real growth always separates you from the herd. Always. Here's the trap no one mentions. People say they want you to grow, to evolve, to become your best version. That's a lie. What they really want is for you to stay the version of you that's comfortable for them. Because your change forces them to question themselves. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your search for truth exposes their lies, and they don't forgive that. So they'll try to pull you back with criticism, mockery, indifference, whatever works to bring you back down to where they feel safe. Do you know what's most cruel? Often, those people are the ones you love most. Your family, your lifelong friends, your partner. The ones who are supposed to support you are the first to say, "You've changed," like it's an accusation. And they say it in that tone. The tone that implies you changed for the worse, that you became weird, that you lost your way. But you didn't lose your way. You found yourself. And they can't follow you because they've never looked for themselves. The brutal truth is this. When you start waking up, you begin to see things others don't. Not because you're superior, but because you looked where they're afraid to look. You saw the contradictions, the social lies, the masks, the theater. And once you see it, you can't pretend it's not there. It's like seeing the Matrix. Everything becomes transparent. And suddenly superficial conversations suffocate you. Trivial concerns seem absurd. And other people's priorities feel empty. And that's where the real problem begins. Because now you have two options: stay silent and pretend, or speak and isolate yourself. If you stay silent, you betray yourself. You become an actor in your own life, smiling on the outside while slowly burning inside. But if you speak, if you try to share what you see, you face rejection, misunderstanding, judgment. They look at you like you're delusional, like you've lost your grounding. And maybe you have. Maybe letting go of the illusions everyone shares is losing your footing. But it's the only path to something real. Here's what no one tells you about awakening. It's not an event. It's a process of continuous loss. You lose your old identity. You lose your community. You lose your sense of belonging. You lose the security of knowing who you are. And all of that disappears before anything new arrives. There's a void, a dead space between who you were and who you'll become. And in that space, you are completely alone. The mystics called it the dark night of the soul. It sounds poetic, but it's pure terror. It's standing in nothingness, not knowing if anything will emerge on the other side. Plato understood this with his damn cave. The guy who leaves, sees the light, realizes everything he knew were just shadows on a wall. And what happens when he goes back to tell the others? They call him crazy. They reject him. They prefer the shadows. Because shadows are predictable, safe, familiar. Light hurts, truth burns, and most people prefer comfortable darkness over uncomfortable light. But here's the twist that will really mess with you. You can't force anyone to wake up. You can't drag people with you. Everyone has their own timing, their own process, their own path. And chances are, the people you love aren't ready. Maybe they never will be. And you have to make peace with that. You have to accept that you can't save anyone. You can't enlighten anyone. That all you can do is walk your own path and trust that if they're ready, they'll catch up. And if not, you have to let them go. And that hurts. It hurts like nothing else. Because it's not just losing people. It's losing the version of yourself that existed in relation to them. You're the child your parents know, the friend your group expects, the partner your relationship needs. And when you change, all those identities collapse. You're no longer who they expect, and they're no longer what you need. And suddenly, you realize that the relationships you thought were solid were built on versions of you that no longer exist. Now here's what will make you even more uncomfortable. Many of those relationships were never real to begin with. They were tacit agreements, social contracts, roles played to keep the peace. They weren't authentic connections. They were masks interacting with masks. And when you remove your mask, the whole illusion falls apart. Because you can't pretend anymore. You can't play the game. You can't uphold the lie. And they, still wearing their masks, don't know how to relate to you without yours. Eckhart Tolle said it brutally. Most so-called friendships are ego agreements to mutually reinforce false identities. Does that hurt? Good, because it's true. Think about how many of your relationships are based on habit, shared history, comfort, but not real connection. How often do you meet someone, not because you truly want to, but because you always have? How many friendships are just inertia, and when you start waking up, that inertia becomes unbearable. You can't tolerate empty conversations, obligatory meetings, toxic dynamics disguised as tradition. And you're faced with a brutal decision. Either keep participating in something that drains you, or break the pattern and accept isolation. And most choose isolation, not because they want to be alone, but because false companionship is worse than true solitude. Here comes the dangerous part. When you step away from your tribe, when you break from your community, when you lose your support system, you enter unknown territory. There's no map, no guide, no one telling you you're doing the right thing. There's only you and your intuition, and your intuition is asking you to jump into the void without a safety net, and that's terrifying. Because humans are tribal animals. Being outside the tribe is, evolutionarily speaking, a death sentence. That's why it feels so wrong. That's why every cell in your body screams at you to go back, to apologize, to adjust, to return to the herd. But here's the truth no one tells you. Going back would be your real death. Not physical, but spiritual. It would be killing the part of you that woke up. It would be betraying the truth you saw. It would be selling yourself out for a bit of social comfort. And once you do that, a part of you dies. It gets buried, suffocated under layers of conformity, and it never comes back. So what do? How do you navigate this void? How do you survive without your tribe? First, you accept that this is part of the process. It's not a mistake. It's not a detour. It's not a sign you were wrong. It's the stage. The caterpillar must completely dissolve before becoming a butterfly. It must lose every trace of what it was. And you are in that liquid, that transformational soup, where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you'll be. Second, you stop seeking external validation. This is the key. As long as you need others to confirm your path, you remain a slave to their approval. And the approval of someone who hasn't walked your path is worthless. It's noise. It's distraction. It's the ego's last attempt to keep you tied to your old identity. Let it go. Trust your experience. Trust what you saw, what you felt, what you know is true, even if no one else sees it. Third, understand that loneliness is temporary. You won't be alone forever. But you have to cross this desert to find your true tribe. Because here's the secret. When you release the level of consciousness you were in, you eventually meet people who are on the same new level. But you can't find them while clinging to old connections. You have to let go to receive. You have to empty your hands so they can be filled with something new. And when those new connections arrive, they're different. They're not superficial. They're not conditional. They don't depend on you being a certain way. They're recognitions. It's like two people who speak the same language meeting in a foreign country. There's instant relief, instant understanding, no explanations needed. Because both have walked similar paths, both have lost the same things, both know the cost of being here. But until that happens, you have to learn to be with yourself. And that's the real test. Because if you can't be alone, if you can't sustain yourself without external validation, then you haven't truly awakened. You're still relying on others to feel real, valid, alive. And that's just another form of sleep. Carl Jung made it clear. Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. True loneliness isn't physical isolation. It's disconnection from your own essence. And paradoxically, when you connect with yourself, when you truly know yourself, external loneliness stops hurting because you're no longer alone. You're accompanied by the only person you'll spend your entire life with, yourself. Here's what most people don't understand. Awakening isn't about reaching some elevated state where you no longer feel pain, no longer miss people, no longer struggle. It's about relating differently to all of that. Yes, you'll miss the people you left behind. Yes, you'll feel the pain of not belonging. Yes, you'll doubt whether any of this was worth it. But you no longer identify with that pain. You watch it pass the way you watch clouds pass. It's there, but it's not you. And here comes the greatest paradox. When you stop needing people, when you release the attachment to belonging, when you make peace with being alone, that's when you can finally have real relationships. Because you're no longer using others to fill a void. You don't need them to complete you. You don't depend on them for happiness. And from that place, from wholeness, you can truly connect, not from need, but from choice, not from fear, but from love. But first, you have to walk through the fire. You have to lose everyone. You have to stand alone in the desert. You have to face the possibility that you may never find anyone who understands you, and be okay with that. Because if you're not willing to lose everything, you're not ready to gain what's real. The universe doesn't give truth halfway. You either take it whole with all its weight and cost, or you stay in comfortable illusion. Here's what's really happening. Most people live inside a collective movie. Everyone agrees on what's real, what matters, how things are supposed to be. And as long as you keep watching that movie with them, everything's fine. But when you start seeing behind the screen, when you realize it's just a projection, you can't re-engage with the plot. And they notice. They notice you're no longer buying the story, and it deeply unsettles them. Because your mere presence becomes a reminder that there's something more. Even if you say nothing, even if you don't preach, even if you don't try to convince anyone, your energy speaks, and it bothers them. Because on some level, they know they could wake up too, but they don't want to pay the price. And seeing you pay it is an uncomfortable mirror. That's why many who awaken end up being attacked by those who love them most. It's not personal, it's fear. Fear that if you succeed, they'll have no more excuses. Fear that your change means they have to change too. Fear of losing the version of you they knew. And that fear disguises itself as concern, criticism. It's for your own good, but it's not. It's for their comfort. Jesus lived it. Buddha lived it. Everyone who dared to wake up lived it. They weren't understood by their time. They were rejected, attacked, ridiculed. Not because they were wrong, but because they were ahead. Because they saw something their era wasn't ready to see. And you're living the same thing, just on a smaller scale. You're not Jesus. You're not Buddha. You're just someone who saw something real in a world that prefers fiction. And that's enough to make you an outsider. But here's what changes everything. When you accept that outgrowing everyone around you is part of the path. When you stop resisting loneliness. When you embrace the void as your teacher. Something opens. A door you didn't know existed. And on the other side of that door is your true self. Not the one you built to survive. Not the one you shaped to please others. But the one that was always there, waiting for everyone else to leave, so it could finally emerge. And that self, that true self, doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to be understood. It simply is. And from that place, you can move through the world without fear. You can speak your truth without needing to convince. You can love without clinging. You can connect without losing yourself, because there's nothing left to lose. You already lost everything in the desert, and what remains is unbreakable. So yes, you will lose people. You'll spend nights doubting. You'll wonder if it was worth it. You'll miss the comfort of belonging, even if it was false. But every time you feel that, remember this. A caterpillar can never return to being a caterpillar once it's touched its wings. The change has already happened. There's no going back. There's only forward. And forward is what you were always searching for without knowing it. Being yourself. Fully. Unapologetically. Without masks. Without fear. That's the price. That's the reward. And it's worth every damn drop of loneliness you have to cross to get there. If you made it to the end, comment. I vibrate at this frequency. And I'll personally reply to you. And if this content resonated with you, subscribe to be part of the journey and leave a like if you enjoyed it. See you next time.